Hello. Okay, so this is bright. I always do this backwards. Okay, so today I figured what I would go for or talk about is slit scanning and how you can turn that into animation. I need to clean my glasses whenever I set up this space. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Whenever I turn on these lights, I realize how dirty my glasses are. Because I become fronted. So, just a piece of paper. I'm using this as a visual example. So, slit scanning. When you scan an image, what you're doing is you have something, some sort of object or document or something that you're putting against a sensor, and that sensor scans line by 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 line, and then you eventually get an image. Sorry, I was reading the comments. But there's so you have the scan bar that goes along, and it takes little slits of the image, and then it compiles them together, and you eventually have a full image. So as it's going and cutting it apart, there's a time delay as it's moving down and taking each image. So slit scan is first terminology for when cameras would photograph something and they'd have this thing that blocks out the front of it and slowly moves in a direction, which could make for a wider image or taking photograph over a period of time, or if you change what's happening in front of the camera, since it's only taking this section by section by section, cutting it into pieces, you can distort what it is. So let's say that you have this photograph, and as you're photographing it, yeah, I have to go this way. And one more. It'll show the effect that I want. So let's say that as you're... That is a big Matisse. It's about the same size. Anyway, I just printed it out. This was for an old thing. But let's say as that camera, as it's moving that slot and the sensor or the film is being exposed, you move upwards as you're going. You end up overlapping or distorting the image and sort of scrunching things together. And you get, oop, that is one off. Okay. It's still weird looking, but not quite that weird looking. You get some image like that. Or you're moving in a direction as well. You can shift this. This is like a broad strokes sort of physical illustration. Or it could be longer. I'd have to rip another piece of paper, but you can sort of push and pull depending on when and how it's scanning, which happens to disadvantage for how some cameras are recording things, or you can shake in different ways as you're moving along, and you distort the image, but it's just manipulating position over time and how it gets exposed. And you can mess with it, but in a lot of photographs now, or digital things, it's recording line by line by line by line by line. So if you're like driving by something as you're recording, you have an effect called rolling shutter or jello effect, where because it's recording line by line by line and this object is moving as it's being exposed, it gets kind of distorted and put to an angle, and it looks kind of like jello or something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a scanner, and I'm just going to scan my hand in different ways, and I'll try to make this as efficient as possible for displaying it, because I can show some of the images on my screen as I'm working through, but it's not going to be as immediate as like me moving something here. So hopefully you have a general understanding of how that's going, but you can also then use, sorry, I'm all over the place. You can also treat the amount of distortion and manipulation as you're messing with these images. The amount and the direction and how it's treated, you can use as controlling the individual frames to an animation, which isn't unlike the animation smears that I was doing yesterday, where you're distorting something to try and imply motion or create motion. So get rid of these guys and pull out my scanner. So first I'm going to wipe this down, and then I'll have to wipe it down afterwards as well. These are just isopropyl alcohol wipes that my mom sent me at the start of pandemic things. But it'll help to get rid of some things. It's not a perfect, this might be over exaggerated with and I'll come back with this guy. I wasn't thinking about the fact that I have so many lights running on this right now, so it'll have more of a white background. Let's zoom out a little so you can see the full scanner. And let's see. Okay, now I can read it a bit, but it's not as prominent in the shot. Clear out a little space. So I need to pull up image capture. So first time through, it's just going to be having my hand. And it's just an overview scan. So we're going to custom size here. 600 should be okay. And we're going to throw this to a folder that I'm creating. New folder. 09-25-20 underscore and scans. Choose that one. Custom size, we're just going to go full size and make this in color. So you can watch the mechanics of this. As this is scanning, it's taking slices and slices and slices of images. So if something is stagnant, it's just staying in the same position. You don't have any effect on what happens for the visual thing. This is going at 600 dots per inch or pixels per inch. So it's going a little bit slower. So now it's just... Or I'll just leave it be. Okay. Thanks for bearing with me. We're going to create an image slideshow. And scan. Okay, so each one is on for that, no loop. Add files. I'm just gonna have to be adding files as I'm working, so desktop, manipulate, live streams. And that should be desktop, not Dropbox. Live designs. And scans. This is going to be big for a second. But I will scale it down. Should have done this prep a little bit earlier. These have a weird look to them because rotate. And it's counterclockwise. And here you have just the base image of what happened of just having the scanner scan the hand. But now what we're going to do is follow this as it's moving along. Let me adjust this a little bit more. Figure out how best to optimize my space. Because I know the chat falls at the bottom. Okay, so now as that is... Thank you, bozo. That sounds like an insult, but thanks for getting this shirt. I don't know if that means it just arrived or if you ordered it or what, but regardless, I appreciate it. I need to move this hand down a little bit. It's getting cut off. Okay, so now, where before it was stationary, I'm going to follow the direction of the scanner, and what you'll get is elongated fingers in the direction that it's scanning. So, let me hit scan again. So now you'll see how I'm following in the direction of the scanning sensor. Because there's oil on my hands. That's why I was saying I'll need to wipe off this once I'm done. So now let's throw that one in the mix. And now you can see that distortion. Let me just see how it's looking in this live view. So that's from playing with that. I'm going to now mess with it going in the opposite direction, where I push against the direction of the scanner. And you'll see it flatten, or instead of stretching. So once this meets my hand, I'll start moving towards it. So now it's squashed instead of stretched. You can also start to see the elements that are left, the oil from my fingers, natural skin oils. So you can see that changing thing where it's taking a photograph, but the method of it, taking it in all of those. Yeah, come on over. All of those separated sections. The image gets distorted if the sensor that it's being picked up by has a mechanical element to it, or how it's processing the thing. If you change the position of the object as it's recording, it will have an effect on the outcome. So now let's try, oh, this is blocking the entirety of that. Okay. It's funny jumping over to where you can see it. Where if you scan it, or I'll even just show you using the other copy of this I have, where that's a physical illustration of it. Let's digitize it. So I have, it's the same photo, but I'm going to scan, and as it's scanning, move towards the scan bar. So now you'll be able to see get rid of some of these and add this one. Transform, rotate clockwise 9 degrees. So you can see how the image got distorted as I scanned and moved it in the direction of the scan bar. Now, those are like the sort of most straightforward ways that you can manipulate, going to or from, but you can also combine them or twist. So let's show you what one of those might look like. And the faster you move it, the more extreme and sort of odd things might be. You can also sort of backtrack. If you move fast enough, you can have elements that move forward or back. This one's going to be a lot more distortion because I'm being pretty chaotic with it and not very controlled. And files, this one. That one's popping up. Yep. So now you can see just how sort of chaotic you can get with that sort of movement and manipulation. It is odd looking, but there's a balance that sort of has to take place where if something is so excessively distorted, you can lose what the identity of the object is, or what the visual is. So if it's just too chaotic, then there's not like clear understanding of what's happening. Or or what the object is, which you can use to completely abstract something and go that route. But there's a balance to be had. So if you have some greater sense of control or better sense of what your planned intention is, what you want the outcome to be, you can work a bit better with that. So this is just general understanding of what a scanner is doing and how you can manipulate images within that. You can use that with animation by doing slight manipulation and then greater manipulation more and more to where you create this abstracted motion. So easiest way for me to do that is just scanning my hand, because then I have complete control. It's a recognizable, simplified object that has a lot of different little elements to it. So that's why I started off with a scanner, and it's a more tangible sort of feel to it. So what I'm going to do now is work towards making an animation. First, I will try just having my hand stretch in a direction and then settle. But I'm going to try and do it this way because it's more interesting to see the length of digits that way. This might be easier. I can turn this thing. Can I take this off? Maybe this can come off. Maybe it can't. Oh, no. Here we go. That's just big enough. Okay, I'm just going to have to do this. I might end up just using my right hand because that's probably easiest for me. I had a different scanner before where this could easily separate out. It's got to be able to come out somehow, but I don't want to break anything. So, going to make it sort of stretch down, settle, and then squash back up. So in order to do that, I have to record each of those transitions. So let's start off with just having stationary hand. I might drop this down to 300 dpi so it goes a little bit faster. So that's stationary hand. Cancel that. And files. So that's what that motion looks like. It's stationary. So let me shift this a little bit down. Now we're going to move it down a little bit as it's going. And keep it stationary. Reset. So now you have that sort of distortion. I was a little bit jittery there because my hand stuck. But you see now you have the start of motion on a distorted image. I am recording, right? Yes, okay. So now let's go further. Add that into the mix. This is also hard to do one-handed. Let's speed up that playback a little. And so it's not 2 seconds, but instead half a second. Okay, now I'm resetting again. Go even further with it. I'm also right-handed, so now I'm controlling my computer left-handed. And let's speed this up even a little bit further. Let's make it 300. 200. Reset. Now let's make the longest hand that I can in this space. A little bit of inconsistency with how my hand or my thumb was going there, so there's a little bit of distortion there, but that's part of the nature of it. So now I'm changing what the starting point was. Where before I was here, now I'm going to start here and shift my starting point down, but continue pushing it down as far as possible. Scan again. Settle. Now let's start further down. And a little bit further down. Add this guy in. Oop, not a directory, just the file. Now scan again. And now have it settle here, down at the bottom. So now let's reverse all of that I've just done. And start moving towards the top. This is going to be a little bit squeaky. Let me dry my hand off as best as possible, because having my hand on glass gets a little damp, a little sweaty, and then it gets sticky, and it's not great. So now, where it's also awkward because I have to bend my hand around this, but I'm doing it. Now I'm going to move towards it. So instead of having that stretched, elongated aspect to the hand, it's going to be squashed. So move forward a bit. It's going to be jolty. But that's part of the aesthetic of it all. For this, I'm just going to have start points. That are higher up. That's going to be guilty as well. So about here. And it's getting stuck when I'm trying to. So start about here. Scan up. And then I will let it settle again. So now let's try some other dragging directions. Did I get that file? I don't think I did. Let's go again. Come on. This is getting all of them. This isn't getting all the cut loop. Let's re-import all these guys. Sorry about this. Where does it start? Right here, I believe. This is in reverse order. Let me add these in the correct order. It is not getting all the images. So let's just start at the new point. Sorry about that. can do it this direction now. Really wish I could see how this isn't popped in here and if there's a safe way to get that out. I don't think there is. Okay, let's keep moving. For the sake of my comfort, I'm just going to scan these in succession and then show you what the animation looks like. So hopefully you have a sense of how stuff's working by now. That's fun. It is fun. But it's repetitive because it's animation. Okay, so now it's still you guys and me. Just go 18 down. Did I miss something in the mix? Anyway, now let's get one that's perhaps a bit more. I'm gonna stand up. That would make so much more sense here. I'm gonna get one that's a series of distorted images. Well, you get a weird perspective on this because my arm's going towards the... I was going towards the camera. This is Slitscan. It's just existing. It's a different methodology for Slitscan. You're scanning and it's in different sections. It's just not being done digitally. Oh, it kind of is. See what those look like. It'd be like 32 on, I believe. Move this over a bit. So that's what I was just doing. So for each of those scans, this hand is moving with it and it's tracking it, and now let me get another one. Now my scanner is super oily from rubbing my hand on it all the time in so many ways. Now let's fiber bit. Clean it off. This is a chaotic screen. I don't have really much more to... I'm using OBS and then a program called Yellow Duck. Yellow Duck streams from your computer or other streaming service. You can stream that way. Que hora son las 4 menos corto? Is that how you say 3:45? I don't really have more to add to this bit. It's just a general lesson on using a scanner to manipulate some stuff. Just for the sake of it, let's scan some odds and ends of what I have here, and then you can see time manipulation and drawing with things. So let's just scan this pencil. Wrong one to open. And I'm just going to go along with the scanning sensor bit as best I can. There's going to be some image manipulation. Let's try scanning a little bit slower. That'll make it easier to follow with it, and we'll get probably a more interesting outcome. 1200 is going to be very slow. I might cancel this. There you go. At 600. This is giant accidental. Oh, let me slow down that playback to 1500. So I did worse with that. This got giant because of that second image. Let's go with something a little bit larger. What do I have? That would be interesting. Well, let's just do I have a quarter? That's not large enough. I don't know. I just go completely abstract and use this. This is a paper towel I was dabbing ink onto. Let's just make a completely abstract item. Abstracted. Well, you can see the shifting of positioning of things and such. Oh, let's go for one of my favorite ones, face. I'll take off my glasses for that, and then I get to wipe this down again afterwards because my face will have oil on it. So this is gonna make it so I'll have trouble seeing for a bit because this is a very bright light to put your eye right on top of. So what I'm going to do is just follow the direction and sort of go across as... let me pull this to a side because I forget that the screen's occupied by stuff. So if you follow and rotate as you go along, it almost looks like the sort of texture you have for 3D modeling where you're applying a flat two-dimensional pixel raster image against a three-dimensional form. So you're sort of, you have distortions at points because this curved item has to be flattened out. It's like how maps are distorted too. But like if you take an orange peel, you can't flatten it evenly because it's got curves and such. But if you scan it and you rotate as you're going along, then you get multiple images. You get an image that sort of flattens it out. So I'll show you this with my face, and then I'll follow the direction, trying to keep as much flush with the scanner bed as I can, and we'll see what it looks like. It's distortion, because you can do like there's a classic sort of like put your face on the scanner and it looks like you're trapped in the item, but you can also distort it more so. So I want to start with my face here, push down as far as flat as I can, but not so much that I crack the glass of the scanner, and then so. You'll get a nice, there's a good amount of, I don't know if you can see it. Let's see. Yeah, I put my glasses back on because I can't see super well. See if you can see. I get the, you can barely see it. But there's a good impression of my face oil on the scanner. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. Cancel that bit. Discard there. Oop. Discard. So let's just look at what the face looks like. So there's my face. Let's rotate that 90 degrees clockwise. Make this bigger, and you can see the distortion. If you do want to do this with your own scanner, be aware that you will need to. Sorry, it's popping up on my stream of the thing. You'll get oil on the surface of your scanner. I'm stuck in your phone now. I'm going to try it one more time because it's a fun thing to do. It's also a weird sensation. Where are my glasses? Where are my glasses? Look at them. Let's make these roll up for 2 seconds each. Throw on this other guy. So I got more lip distortion on that one. If I were to scan it with an open mouth, scanners have a very short depth of field. So once you get like just a tiny bit off the surface, then everything's out of focus. Also, the light on a scanner doesn't have a lot of distance it covers, so to speak. So when you have something on a scanner, you usually, if it's much off the surface at all, it won't be illuminated by the light that's there. So it'll just be in darkness. So if I were to open my mouth, it probably wouldn't do super well at showcasing that. But most scanners have, also a very short depth of field. So if you look at the face, anything that's like not on the surface, not like right on the, move my head. That's like far off the surface at all that has any sort of height to it, it'll be out of focus. Which you can see. Let's see. Can I point like in that section? Or that section? The middle section, because when I rotate my face, it separates off the surface and then back down. It gets further away and it can't focus, or it doesn't focus on that, because scanners are made to scan documents, flat things primarily. You can. Do I have an easy way to? I don't have an easy way to explain it, but or to showcase what's happening specifically. Do I have that bit? No, it's over here. So I'm just plain paper. Make this guy small. Throw him down there. Okay, so cameras work by having this back section that has some sort of either film or sensor, and then there's a lens that focuses incoming light through it and then throws it against that back sensor or film, and then it records that information, and for film it produces a negative, and sort of the same for digital is my understanding, because it's light sensitive, it's recording the light that's coming in and then it inverts it. So what you need for a camera is some sort of focusing element and some sort of something to be cast against. Some of the earlier cameras that you have are pinhole cameras, where there's no glass or plastic lens, there's just a very small hole, and it inverts an image against, traditionally, when you didn't have a photosensitive material, either a wall or some sort of surface, and you'd have an inverted thing, and that was called a camera obscura. And you can build one of those in your house, or using a pinhole, or like a camera viewer, or what you would use for looking at an eclipse, where it's taking all this outside light, focusing through a point, and then inverting it against a background. You aren't restricted with what this sensor is, what it's being cast against. So you can build a camera obscura in a room by taking your window, that's nice in here, and you block out the entirety of it, and you put either a pinhole or some sort of lens, and then your entire room, so long as all of this is blacked out except for the light that's coming in through that little pinhole, your room becomes a surface, and you can see what it's being cast against. You can also build scanner cameras using a flatbed camera, where you block out a section in front, you build something in front, and you put a lens of some kind, and then this whatever subject matter the light comes through and is inverted and cast against the scanner bed. And with that really short depth of focus, you just have to focus this lens so that the image that you want is cast against this scanner bed. With the scanner, as I showed with all these images, it's capturing line by 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 line. So if you have a subject matter in front of here that's dancing and moving, as this scanner sensor is moving down or up or whatever direction depending on the orientation, you have similar effects to what the slit scan I was doing here, but you're a little less restricted by the surface. So let me see if I can. I've built one of these before using a scanner and a magnifying lens. And all you do is you have cardboard. Ideally, it would be either painted on the interior or you have black foam core, and you just build a square tube that goes against the surface of the scanner. This would be the scanner back here. And then a magnifying lens here. And then you have to figure out the focal length. So if you search like scanner camera or custom scanner camera or build your own scanner camera or flatbed scanner camera, you can find instructions that are a little bit more specific, and you can see people's experiences with them. But if you build a secondary box that goes around the tube that's going to the scanner itself, then you can push this in either direction and focus in on what you want to be in focus. So I'm going to turn that one off, and let's get image slideshow, scan cam, discard, and let me find these guys. Let's add a directory, scan. Hopefully, okay, so here's a few examples of, these are some people that I photographed using a scanner camera that I built. And examples of how it functioned. They have something of a quality of like 10 types or something, but it's just, it has the one that I built had a very narrow focal depth of field. But you can see in these images that some of the, especially for mine, I moved like this, and then the still image is a weird distortion. And what you're seeing as the frame that's around those images, that's the foam core that is on the surface of the scanner camera. You can also buy rigs that'll do it for typical cameras, and you just have a long exposure and you have some sort of object in front of the lens that has a slit cut into it, and it moves in front of the lens, which then focuses onto a sensor, and you can have similar effects. You can do it digitally. There was a I keep forgetting that I don't have this. So you'd have something that has, I don't need to tear that necessarily, but you'd have something and it's just shifting in front of the camera lens as it's exposing. You can also do it digitally, where depending on what the time difference is and the resolution of the image, it'll just play back with sections. So there's a time difference between each section. There was one that was going around a lot on TikTok for a bit, and you get distorted images that way, where you have something that, if someone opens a door, that door is going on this sort of pathway. But if that pathway is has a time displacement in these sections, what you end up with is, let's say this is number 1, 2, 3, yeah, it's hard to draw at this angle, 4, and then 5. Let's say that at this point in this section, this portion of the door is entirely open. Then the one above it is only partly open. The one above that is only partly open. And you get this sort of twisty door that's both open and closed at the same time. There's a lot of dance videos that people have done, or if someone walks around someone or spins, you get a lot of interesting distortions that happen with that time displacement. I have to reorient my sense of direction because down here it's this way, but here, like to this camera, it's this way. You have a time displacement, so if this is happening, at that point you get distorted, twisted things that look like a barber pole or something. It's hard to really conceptualize it until you try it out and mess with it. But yeah, I think that's been about an hour. That's a good enough amount of time. I will probably put some of the hand scans onto a shirt of some kind and post that up. If you want to look at that, you can look in my web store, which is traceloops.com/store. Sold a few shirts. If you want to ship internationally, DM me or message me somehow. My store is still a mix of items that I personally have and then items that are being fulfilled by a third party, and there's different shipping rates depending on how much you're buying on it. And there's a flat rate for domestic shipping, and that's a lot easier and less time consuming for me if I'm shipping them personally. So if you're not in the United States and you want something that's in my store, I can work with you to send it to you. But thank you all for watching. I will be back tomorrow is the plan. And I don't know what I'm doing. I just decided to try and showcase Slitscan stuff using a scanner because it's a little bit more accessible than some other things. Thanks for watching. I'll be back tomorrow. If you want to watch this in full, I'll upload it to YouTube. Disconnected. See if it reconnects. Okay, so thanks for watching. I'll be back later. Thank you, Liz. Oh, you're back again. You've watched it several times. Okay, bye. It takes a second to save and finish. Come on. Okay.